special thanks to the Minister for making this house available. We're aware that you've got a busy schedule and we appreciate the presence here. Also welcome to the SRC Chairman, somebody we've engaged with in the past months, as well as the Director General of the SRC. And on my side, I'm represented by the advisor to the President of the SAFA and the House. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a long and winding road, but we finally here to announce the lifting of the suspension of the Zimbabwean Football Association after the conditions which led to that suspension in February 2022 have been met. And also, as an additional step, the installation of a normalization committee which will run Zimbabwean football for the betterment of all involved in this great sport of ours until June 2024, I believe. And thank you for coming to this press conference. I'm a man of very few words, and here specifically not to tell you, but maybe to clarify anything that you might have. So I'll keep my comments quite short. But what I do want to assure you is the complete support of FIFA, the complete support of CAF, the complete support of the SAFA, ensuring that Zimbabwean football reaches the heights that we all desire, the heights that we all sometimes remember, so that we can provide a viable career option to all the children, make it a viable football industry, and lead to the development of all football players in this country. Being Zimbabwean, I know a lot of people have commented that there is Zimbabwean involved. I do not think that my nationality has any bearing on people's support of this process. I'm also involved in supporting other member associations, making sure that South Sudan, Namibia, Ghana are formidable forces, and that we as Zimbabwe in this instance need to regain those particular instances as well. So I won't go much into what happened, but I would like to give the platform to the SRC, to the SAFA, to share their thoughts and their ambitions. I think they've been engaging you the last couple of months. There have been things that have been discussed, and maybe this is the platform for them to show you and to tell you their ambitions for Zimbabwean football and what they consider the next steps. As I've said to the Director General, on a personal note, I'm here for as long as it takes today to clarify where I can and to give guidance in terms of people's support for the Zimbabwean Football Association. So without continuing further, I'd like to hand over to Alta to give the platform to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Solomon. Sorry. I'm really looking at the next speaker. Mr. Nkomo, I do believe he's going on, but he's going to option to come to the podium. But if you want to say something from that, it's going on. He can ask us to use the podium.
Good morning, my Minister, my Chairman, my Director General, my FIFA colleague, the Sports Council, members of the press, and everyone else here. I represent the President of COSAFA, and Zimbabwe is an integral member of COSAFA, one of the founding members. And it's like when you're in a family of 14 or 6 or 5, you miss one brother. And when it's meal times, the food doesn't even taste good because you miss your brother. So we took it upon ourselves to push that Zimbabwe comes back into the family fold. I mean, in life, you open the window for fresh air. If mosquitoes come in, it doesn't mean fresh air is bad. That's what happened. There's been things that happened, and we do not want to talk about it. We as COSAFA just want kids that were 16 2 years ago, they've missed 2 years of international football. Some of them could have signed to overseas playing countries. Some of them could be playing professional, but they couldn't because they suspended. But that's all in the past now. From now onwards, as COSAFA, our dream is for Zimbabwe to take its rightful place. This country is for so much talent. human capital. If we get our act right, our dream is to see Zimbabwe qualifying for the 2026 World Cup, of which, by the way, we're in the draw for it. Confirmed? Yes, we're in the draw for it tomorrow. We're looking forward for ZIM. The nomination committee, they need support from COSAFA, CLAF, FIFA. That's on the technical side, but my advice to them is they should work with their biggest stakeholder, which is the Sports Council, which is the government. No one should be left behind because this country deserves football. Football is such a uniting sport. It's everybody's dream. Everybody who can walk and kick a ball thinks one day they can play professional, and we need to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nkomo. I would like to ask the chairperson of the SRC board to say his remarks.
Right, let me just do some housekeeping here because there's a lot of mics. Some of them look like grenades. Right, thank you. Master of Ceremonies, our Minister, Honorable Kirsty Coventry, FIFA representative, Mr. Solomon Mudege, Ralph Nkomo, Special Advisor to the COSAFA President, members of the SRC board. I'll start from the far left, Titus from where? Dr. My glasses. That's Dr. Alan Jura, Mrs. Colin de Jong, Mrs. Karen Mutasa, and Mr. Nigel Munyati. Welcome, guys, and thank you for joining us here as well. And obviously, our Director General, I think the first female Director General of the SRC, Mrs. Elta Nengomasha, and you, members of the media. Welcome and thank you to this media briefing with respect to the lifting of Zimbabwe's suspension, not Zimbabwe's ban, as we keep hearing, but Zimbabwe's suspension as a member of FIFA. Let me start by saying this. I know we don't want to go into too much of the background, which I will not dwell on, but it's really to just give context in why we're here today. In August 2019, the SRC held in abeyance its decision to suspend the ZIFA Executive Committee for acts and commissions arising out of the debacle that was the Warriors AFCON 2019. Hey. Rather than acting hastily, the SRC sought FIFA's intervention, suggesting the installation of a normalization committee to oversee the affairs of the association. FIFA, however, declined this proposition, not considering the situation grave enough for such drastic measures at that point. Respecting FIFA's perspective, the SRC, for the past year and a half, has been meticulously building a case for FIFA's further contemplation. Any prospects for genuine reforms within ZIFA would have remained but a chimera without FIFA's active engagement. We recognize that at the outset. The appointment of a normalization committee to steer the course of ZIFA reforms forms the cornerstone upon which urgently required reforms can be erected within the organization. In early 2023, SRC and FIFA and CAF arrived at a consensus over the appointment of such a normalization committee. The subsequent months were utilized in deciphering the mechanics and legalities thereof for its optimal implementation. This endeavor has been a symphony of collaboration involving all parties, including not just FIFA, but CAF and COSAFA. An unprecedented rapport has been fostered amongst all of those organizations, along with the government of Zimbabwe as represented by the Ministry of Sports. This relationship, already unprecedented in many ways, will be solidified by a collaborative agreement between the parties as the necessary reforms in our football take root. Never again should our football become a victim of unscrupulous administrators and social miscreants, driven by self-centeredness and egotism, as has been the case over the years. The SRC wishes to express its gratitude for the patience and understanding exhibited by all genuine stakeholders in football. We are acutely cognizant of the inconvenience, pain, and frustration that the suspension from international football has elicited. And I think Rolf made mention to that, the 15-year-olds who are now 17 years old, and obviously those going into the more senior teams that they've lost out on opportunities or been prejudiced in one way or the other. We're always alive to that, always. It was never taken for granted. Right, your endurance has never been in vain. Today marks the genesis of a golden era for Zimbabwean football. Please accompany us for the remainder of this journey. It promises to be exhilarating, rewarding, and fulfilling. The SRC wishes to extend its sincere appreciation to FIFA and CAF, as well as COSAFA. Ever since the suspension of FIFA's executive committee by the SRC, we have been engaged in relentless dialogue. Many doubted the visibility or authenticity of such an endeavor. Our presence here today, however, stands as testament to this fact. The vigorous debates we engaged in to devise solutions for ZIFA's troubles never lost sight of our respective statutes and the need for their adherence in fulfilling our responsibilities. Mrs. Sarah Solemale, the senior member association governance manager within FIFA, our main contact person, demonstrated exceptional dedication in keeping us all aligned and moving towards a sustainable solution. The relationship established across our respective institutions should remain untarnished and endure beyond the personalities currently present, whose sole task should be to create a legacy of sound football administration. Nothing else holds more significance. Our minister, our Minister of Youth, Sports, Arts and Recreation, Honorable Kirsty Coventry, took uncalled for hits on behalf of the SRC, both in public and behind the scenes. We all know that. Some of us were guilty of that. We know ourselves. But embodying the true spirit of an Olympic champion, she remained steadfast in her support for the board stance. Her unwavering belief in a positive outcome for our football has been justified today. Minister, thank you for your guidance. Thank you for your focus. Very much appreciated. We must not overlook the instrumental role played by His Excellency, President Edi Mnangagwa. His direct authorization ensured that the Warriors were amply resourced for their AFCON campaign in Cameroon last year. Informed by his minister, he also offered unwavering support to the SRC, understanding the broader implications of reform within ZIFA for sport in general. Appreciation must be extended to the media, the outlets that reported facts, offered context, and constructively criticized the SRC's perceived shortcomings. Constructive criticism is never a hindrance. To those who stood by us, you know who you are. In conclusion, the journey for reforms within ZIFA does not cease here. Today merely marks the beginning of that journey. As the SRC, we have consistently asserted that this roadmap for reforms necessitated the involvement of FIFA and CAF and COSAFA. We have always maintained that the form and nature of the entity overseeing this reform process would need mutual agreement. Today, all of that begins to take shape. As the dynamic and decisive FIFA Director for Member Associations Africa, Gelson Fernandez said, the ball must roll in Zimbabwe, and so it shall. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I would ask you again to kindly invite the Honorable Minister to the podium.
Okay.
Okay, I'd forgotten that. I thought political
It's
rally
not
style. Yeah, we are minister. Or you got.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Wow, we're finally here. It's very exciting. Please sit, please sit, please sit, please sit. Thank you. Allow me to give recognition to our FIFA representative, our CASAFA representative, and to CAF, as well as to our SRC Director General, our SRC Chairman, and his incredibly sturdy board that stood by us through this. For my role today, and also to acknowledge all of you here, football lovers and especially the media, our fourth estate. My role is really to welcome this incredible news. This is exactly where we had wished we had been in 2019 when we requested for a normalization committee to come in. We now have that normalization committee that will be working, as we've heard from the various stakeholders, with all of us. I want to thank FIFA, CASAFA and CAF for being open over the last year and a half to better understanding the situation on the ground. This did not happen overnight. It took a lot of faith and goodwill on both sides, and I want to thank them for being open to that. I want to thank them for giving guidance where it was needed, and I want to thank them for seeing the value in which we bring to the table as Zimbabweans, Zimbabwe football. I want to make special mention of our incredible female referees that stood up and were extremely brave. I spent time with them. It was probably one of the hardest afternoons I've ever had to sit through, listening to what they have had to experience under the former leadership. And I want to thank them for their courage and for their bravery. And I hope we've made them proud today. I'm trying not to get emotional. Soccer is our heartbeat. And it was, I know many of you have judged us very harshly for the decision we took. But we have to make hard decisions in order to make sure we're doing the best for our stakeholders. And not just one stakeholder. Without referees, without athletes, without a youth league in our soccer, without clubs, without the PSL, without the Women's League, we do not have administrators. The way in which our soccer was running was heavily dependent on what the administrators wanted, and only for their benefit. And a year and a half ago, when we made the decision, the hard decision to say enough is enough, I want to go back and really give recognition. The SRC chairman already gave recognition to His Excellency. But I remember walking into His Excellency's office, and I sat down and I had to share with him, once we make the decision, where it was going to take us. And I didn't know what his reaction was going to be. We know that soccer has this very special part to play across African politics around the continent. And I want to personally thank him for not even hesitating. For as soon as I finished the sentence of this could lead to a suspension, without hesitation, he turned around and said, "Clean it up, it's time." And I want to thank him for that, because that was extremely brave, and it gave me the support that I then could give to the SRC, knowing that it was unwavering and knowing that it was time to turn a corner and to get back into being one of the greatest sporting soccer countries in the world. We used to be ranked in the top 40 of the world. We need
that chance to get back there. Our athletes deserve that chance to get back there, to live their dream. And they're going to do that. And we have an opportunity right now through this normalization committee to build and rebuild a solid foundation that sees all of our soccer fraternity and stakeholders thriving, our fans, our youth players, our women's players, our men's players, coming together, uniting. This is the time. I want to thank the soccer fraternity for walking this journey, whether you agreed with it or didn't. I want to thank you for that. As the chairman said, the constructive criticism was never taken in bad light. It was always taken seriously, and I hope you'll continue to walk that same road with us. We have good people within our soccer fraternity. I hope now they're going to be brave enough to stand up and be a part of this change. Don't allow the rot to come back. With that, I want to again thank the SRC chairman and his board. As he mentioned, it was not the easiest of roads, but it's a road that has led us to the light. And I hope that we all take this opportunity with both hands and we run full speed ahead in ensuring that Zimbabwe becomes a global phenomenon in the world of soccer. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think the room, I'm not the only one who felt like crying. Hands up if you also felt like, if you felt tearing. But thank you for a moving speech. It shows your personal commitment to the success of athletes in Zimbabwe. I would like to open the room. Mr. Mundege, are we introducing the Normalization Committee today? Yes. So I'm going to give this opportunity back to Solomon so that he can then unveil the Normalization Committee. Solomon, I would ask you to come to the podium so that journalists are eyeing me and they're telling me, Alta, we told you our mics are not moving. I've heard you. So, yeah.
Thank you to our Master of Ceremony. Yes, as announced yesterday through FIFA's FIFA.com through a press release, FIFA has conducted a process together with the support of CAF as well as the SRC in identifying persons who could be called upon to serve as the Normalization Committee of FIFA. After an interview process and engagement with different parties who are involved in this decision, we have selected 4 persons who will serve as the Normalization Committee for a period of at least until June 2024. These persons will obviously have to go through integrity checks on the FIFA side and will be known as direct consultants of FIFA in delivering their mandate for Zimbabwean football. These gentlemen and ladies have the following duties, and this is part of their mandate. The first one is to run the daily affairs of ZIFA. The second is to restructure the ZIFA administration. The third is to establish, with the help of FIFA, a collaboration agreement between the Ministry of Sport, the SRC and ZIFA, which will define the responsibilities and objectives of each party, including, but not exclusively, on the topic of sexual harassment. The fourth mission is to review the ZIFA statutes and electoral code to ensure their compliance with the FIFA statutes and requirements, and to ensure their adoption by the ZIFA Congress. As a fifth point, the normalization will act as an electoral committee in order to organize and conduct elections of a new ZIFA board based on the newly aligned ZIFA statutes and electoral code. And finally, the normalization committee will be tasked with ensuring a proper financial handover to the new ZIFA board. For this process, as I've said, we have 4 persons who have been selected.
And I would like to call upon them one by one so that you get to know them. After this press conference, we'll also go to the ZIFA headquarters so that they can go and meet the staff. Firstly, I would like to call upon one of our members, a former football player for Highlanders, as well as a person who's done academic courses that have been supported by FIFA, Mr. Skumbuzo Ndebele. I'd also like to call upon one of the Mighty Warriors coaches and also a former player, someone who's got an acute knowledge of the Zimbabwean women's football landscape and will be tasked with assisting us in delivering the mandate towards women's football and the environment of women's football in Zimbabwe. I call upon Coach Rosemary Mugadza. We're also cognizant of the need for expertise and the need to invite and allow young persons within the Zimbabwe nation to be part of the solution. And it gives me great honor to call upon a leading young lawyer who will be tasked with assisting and revising our statutes and looking at the policies of the ZIFA as well as the HR restructuring commitments that we've made. And I call upon Nyasha Sanyamandwe. Finally, the team will be led by their chairman, someone with extensive knowledge of Zimbabwean football, someone we can turn to remind us of the glory days of Zimbabwean football, and somebody that we'll turn to direct us towards better times for Zimbabwean football. We call upon Mr. Lincoln Mutasa. Just as a token of significance in some way, I will hand over our shirt to Mr. Mutasa as the chairman so that he can be part of this event and represent our program, which will work under the FIFA Forward program. As I've indicated, these four persons were the choices of the three stakeholders primarily that were involved in this process, with the SRC, FIFA, as well as CAF, and we're confident that as we go ahead, we will call upon them and support them in delivering their mandate towards Zimbabwean football. I call upon Mr. Mutasa, if you've got some words that you'd like to say, some brief words. I know it's unprepared, but I feel that you should lead by saying something to our stakeholders.
Thank you, Head of Development, Mr. Mdenge. Honorable Minister, you know, that's the first time I've ever had to say that. Otherwise, it used to be, come on, Casti, come on, Casti. As we watched the grow up and become a national champion in the swimming gala. Chairman of the SRC, Mr. Mlochwa, and all the members of the SRC. Representatives of FIFA, CAF, COSAFA, and all distinguished guests here present today. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity on behalf of our team that has been put together by FIFA. I will introduce the team in a different way just now. But the first thing I really felt I should do is to thank FIFA, our government, and then SRC for finding each other. It was hurting not only the sports people, but ourselves, all the sports parents in the country. You know, you put so many hours to try and get your kid to excel in a sport. And when this doesn't happen, or when this is frustrated, it's a big mountain to climb. So I'm really delighted and really thank all the parties involved for finding each other. I said I will introduce the team, or our team, to you in a different way. When we were approached, we did not apply to be members of this committee. We were approached and we were interviewed. I didn't know who I was going to be a team member with, but I'm highly inspired by the team that has been put together, because it has got a wealth of experience both in the men's game and in the women's game, as well as the technocrats that we've been allowed to surround us. I feel confident that we'll be able to work well together as a team and try and meet the clear mandate that FIFA has tasked us with. In conclusion, I would like to just highlight one thing. We are a team, and the secret behind any success is generally teamwork. As members of the media, I would like to discuss with you what we would consider success. What does success look like for our team? We will be very happy and delighted and feel successful if after our tenure we would have set the platform for this country to achieve consistently getting to the World Cups. That, to me, I always feel is the ultimate aim of any footballer and any football team, is to try and develop to play at the highest level. And as we are led by somebody who has already swum at the highest level, I think we have enough inspiration as a country. For us to be able to do that, our team is not only the four of us, but it's the whole nation. And we really are going to appeal to everybody, from our sponsors, all our stakeholders, the players, the coaches, everyone, to all rally together so that as a nation, we have one goal and we work towards that goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we'll hand over back.
Thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Solomon. Thank you to the Normalization Committee, to the chairperson of the committee. We thank you. I think at this point in time, you may take your seats. Honorable Minister, if you'd allow me to open the room for a question and answer session. Can I call upon the guys I'd asked to assist, Tendai, Mavis, and Kudzi from FIFA? Kindly move around the room with cordless mics. Members of the media fraternity and stakeholders here, you are free to ask any questions to the panel. Thank you. I take it there are no questions. Mr. Kariatu.
Now that the issue of our return to international football has been resolved, and as indicated, we'll be back in the World Cup starting from tomorrow's draw. When should we expect the National Sports Stadium
think we'll take 3 questions at a time so that they can be responded to at once.
Good morning to you all. It has been a painful wait, and I think thanks to you guys for finding each other. My question is directed to most probably the guys from FIFA and CAF. I've heard actually you guys talking about obviously the guys qualifying, able to play the qualifiers. My question would be, for the women, I understand the CAF draw actually happened for the Women's Championship, which serves as qualifiers for the World Cup. So the guys from FIFA would like to ask, will we get to see our Might Warriors also taking part in the qualifiers so that also they get a chance to qualify for the FIFA Women's World Cup? Thank you.
There was another hand somewhere over here.
I kindly ask that we introduce ourselves as you ask the questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Robson Sharuko. My present position is editor of H Metro, but I think I'm more of a sports journalist than an editor of H Metro. My question is directed to Solomon. Reading the press statement released by the outgoing FIFA SG, Fatma, it speaks to the need to escalate or to continue investigation into the sexual harassment of referees, female referees in this country. And critically, I'll read here, it also says a forensic audit of FIFA accounts will be carried out as soon as possible, and upon restitution of the relevant documentation by local authorities and individuals that have been in control of FIFA thus far. Reading the issue of the sexual harassment of female referees and the need for the audit to be carried out, I find these were the core issues that were behind the suspension of the FIFA board. So if FIFA are acknowledging right now, 1.5 years later, that these issues have to be dealt with, why did it take so long for us, for FIFA and FIFA and ministry to reach an agreement as has become the case in the last few days? And is it true that you personally became a stumbling block in terms of a resolution to the Zimbabwe crisis because you were taking sides with one of the parties that were involved in the conflict? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that was 3 questions. We'll do rounds of 3. I will answer the first question, and then I'll hand over to our FIFA and CASAFA representative to handle the second question and the third question. An update on our national sports stadium. There has been ongoing works. The electronic ticketing system is now in the country waiting to be installed. The water reticulation is in process, and the feasibility study for the entire area, not just the National Sports Stadium, but the hockey stadium as well as the grounds around, are being undertaken at the moment and should be wrapped up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. This has all been explained to FIFA last week when the representatives were here. They also went and visited the National Sports Stadium, of which they were under the assumption was crumbling and falling to the ground, and was quite surprised when they walked in and actually were shown around the grounds that it was not the case. So the works are ongoing. We will continue with that. We've had some initial conversations with our FIFA representatives in terms of the next steps. They would like to see all of those next steps followed up in writing, which as the minister responsible we will do, and we'll deliver that through to the SRC, who will then pass that on to FIFA in terms of the commitments that's being made with this feasibility study that's being undertaken. That feasibility study is being undertaken with a company a South African company, legitimate company that built the soccer stadiums and renovated the soccer stadiums for the World Cup in 2010. So that's where the expertise is coming in. And in the next 3 weeks, we'll have a more of an update for you in terms of where that feasibility will see us and timelines, which will then be happily shared with SRC and FIFA. So that's for the next 2 questions.
Thank you.
The second question was from the lady about ladies football. As COSAFA, we see a great need for ladies football, especially Zimbabwean ladies football, to come back into the fore. So we are currently discussing, and we will discuss with the relevant parties in Ministry, SRC, to hold a tournament here in the next couple of months for maybe the ladies under 20 in the very short coming months.
Yes, there was a question for Tatenda. I think before I proceed, I'd like to just show my admiration for the coverage that you do. You cover minor sports like netball, which in this country some people don't pay attention to, but I certainly do. And I look forward to the participation of the Zimbabwe Gems in Cape Town. So thank you for being here on the football side. Regarding the participation in current competitions, as you're aware, those draws have already been done. So it would not be possible to add a Zimbabwean team. However, there are opportunities of adding Zimbabwean national teams to other international tournaments, such as the ones which are being mentioned by COSAFA. COSAFA remains our most immediate entry into international football. We also support COSAFA in staging these tournaments. So that is what will be done. But before we look internationally, we need to change things locally. I watched the match between Black Mambas and Shine at Morris Depot. It was supposed to start at 11, was moved to 2. I came back at 2. The team only turned up at 3:30. They turned up wearing the same kit as the home team. We had to delay to allow them to start. I also went to the other match, which was supposed to be at Yada, where FC Platinum ladies were supposed to be playing Yada. And I got to the match venue. I've been told now it's been moved to Lord Melbourne. And all this was happening just because I was there. And we look at that situation, we need to be more professional in how we do it. And professional comes from the fact that FIFA doesn't currently have a women's football officer or anyone to run women's football. That should change. And the normalization committee is acutely aware of that. But one person can't change it, it needs to be an exact department. So that's part of the restructuring that we need to do. There are lots of programs that FIFA does. There are even Zimbabwean nationals who go to Gambia, Uganda to train in women's football. Why can't they work here? So these are the things that we're looking into. We cannot continue with what was done in the past. I think there was a simple lack of investment into women's football, but that needs to change. We'll also engage the Footballers Union of Zimbabwe, who are being quite a vocal advocate for women's football. We need to find a way in order to look after the female players in a much better way. Moving on to Mr. Sharuko's question about the forensic audit. Yes, a forensic audit will be conducted. This is the norm when you have a normalization committee. If they are taking over the accounts of an organization that they were not running, when you do auditing, you audit the past. So the past, we need to understand what exactly happened, especially in this period where Zimbabwe was not receiving funding, yet there was funding within the ZIFA forward accounts as we have it, and the CAF accounts. So we need to assure ourselves of what actually transpired. And even issues before, we can look into that as well. The issue of sexual harassment, I can say from the FIFA perspective, you saw it. It's part of the mandate of the new normalization committee. It's something that we take seriously. It's something that you have seen certain individuals being sanctioned due to their conduct and the way that they harassed certain female referees or officials within Zimbabwean football. So in terms of the investigations, what has been reported to the FIFA Ethics Committee, they will investigate. Unfortunately, the FIFA Ethics Committee is independent. I'm not aware of the current number of cases that they're looking into, nor should I be aware of the cases that they look into, because this investigation is something that happens in an independent and very, in a way that allows the people to come forward. We also need to look at what we can do locally in terms of making sure that we do not allow people who abuse vulnerable individuals or children to be involved in football. While Zimbabwe was suspended, we have made a lot of progress in terms of safeguarding and child protection. I'm aware that the minister is working on several bills that are being proposed to look into these matters. And at the very basis of it, some of it is criminal in nature. And we should find a supportive environment for those who step forward to be assisted and to lay charges on those who have been accused of abuse. So the issue of sexual harassment was never in doubt. It was something that both parties were looking into. It was never a cause of tension to say that we do not believe anyone. We believe those who came forward, and we're supporting them to receive the justice that they deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next 3 questions.
Yes, my name is Petros Gausio, sports editor of the Sunday Mail.
Sorry, can you stand? We can't see where you
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, before I go into my own questions, I think Mr. Mdege is a part of the question that Mr. Shango
Yes.
asked, which you did not address in terms of...
I simply forgot. I'm supposedly a stumbling block.
If you could address that,
Okay.
there also needs clarity.
I'm not sure how to respond to this because I do not know what a stumbling block means. I feel I've been very professional now. I've conducted myself in the relations with the SRC in the engagement with even the previous FIFA board, who had a right to be heard as well as we charted the way forward. I would not know the specific allegations about how I was a stumbling block or how I continue to be a stumbling block. But what I can assure you is since I came in Zimbabwe last week, Saturday, I've postponed my travel back to Zurich 4 times so I can be here. I do not think it would be the same press conference if I was not here. I see myself not as a stumbling block, but actually as a catalyst to what is happening here. So that is all I have to say to that.
Now on to my questions. I just want to understand what guarantees are there that the outgoing board will this time cooperate in terms of the forensic audit, because the SRC directed forensic audit that was carried out by reputable chartered accountants, and in their report they cited problems they faced in getting documentation and cooperation from the outgoing board. I would like to know what guarantees are there that even the normalization committee now will get that cooperation, which is vital to get an understanding of where our football is coming in terms of the audits and where we are going. Then my second question is, I also want to understand from you, Mr. Ndege, what's in stock, I think, for the ZIFA Secretariat that is also here to operate for long periods without leadership, and then it came in an interim board and all that. In between, we got also reports of threats of victimization of those that were working steadfastly at ZIFA House to ensure that domestic football was going on there, arranging referees, inspecting the stadia and all that. Thank you.
Thank you. And young lady over here.
Good morning.
You've got, okay. We'll come over to you in a minute.
All right, thank you. My name is Ruchendo Maraye from Sources Media. My name is Ruchendo Maraye from Sources Media. So after a year plus in the wilderness, what has SRC achieved? And given that the gift banda issue is not mentioned anywhere in the FIFA letter, do you think getting Zimbabwe suspended by FIFA for the year was justified, given that nothing has changed? Thank you.
Okay, and we'll take the young man.
Not so young. Good morning. I've got a question. It's Enoch Mchindo here, local stringer for the Associated Press and also sports writer for the Newsbox. I've got a question for Solomon. Given that FIFA seems to have realized that the way football was managed in this country was not proper. Going forward, what is the stance of FIFA with regards to so-called government interference in football administration? Because the common view is that this law is rigid and should be done with, because it denies countries the opportunity to correct things when they.
Yes, my question is, given that FIFA seems to have realized that football has been mismanaged in this country over the past few years, what is the position going forward with the law regarding so-called government interference in the affairs of football? Is it a law that you think should be outdone with going forward?
Thank you.
And
Okay.
then also a second question is to the Minister of Sport and the Chairman of the SRC. Do you think that it has been worthwhile, I mean, getting suspended for over a year and then having to come back again with no stadiums, and also facing the possible humiliation of having to play our home games away from home?
Okay, thank you. We'll start with those, and I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you, Minister. I think there was a question about the audits and what guarantees do you have for support. All I can say there is we'll engage fully with the ZIFA Secretariat in terms of getting the documentation and explanations of what transpired. You're correct that the audit which was done did reveal that certain their position would change should further documentation be available. Some of that documentation is available at FIFA, and we've done these audits before. We do a central review of all our funds every year, which leads to either restriction in funding or the continuation of funding, reporting to our various committee, or even arrests when wrongdoing has been done. So I'm fairly confident that we'll be able to do the analysis and get the required documents, because it's for the betterment of ZIFA, and I'm confident in the ZIFA staff that we can work together with the leadership to get the information that we need. The second point relates to what's in store for the ZIFA Secretariat. I do not wish to preempt anything. As I said, I'm assisting the Normalization Committee. After this meeting, they will have a meeting with the ZIFA staff at the headquarters. So it's within that context that certain information will be shared. But I must say that I'm aware of the difficulties that they've had, and we should be able to redress some of those difficulties. The threats and the victimization is not something that I'm aware of, and that has no place within football. We're all here to play football. It's supposed to be a beautiful game. There's no need for threats and victimization on football decisions, especially at an administration level. So I think we need to change our mindset as well when it comes to football, having processes, having communication and engagement on the different topics, so that we don't have such tensions which lead to threats and victimization. However, I leave this to the Normalization Committee, and we'll support them accordingly in how they work with the ZIFA Secretariat. The final point is about government interference. In this case, we as FIFA remain with the position that there should be no government interference. However, member associations should not hide behind this. I can assure you in the next coming days, you will see a more transparent ZIFA in how they share what is important, and how they share the investments from governments, the investments from FIFA. It's something that we're proud of. We write articles on the use of funds in different countries. We would like to do the same here. We'll also task ourselves in finding out how previous funding has been utilized, and we'll make sure that we get the needed responses. So there's no change in FIFA's approach. What we do encourage, though, is more engagement within governments. We shouldn't be talking to each other in situations of crisis and conflict. We should all be at one table. What can be said about this situation was, at various stages, you had FIFA talking to ZIFA, and then FIFA talking to SRC, SRC talking to ZIFA. At no stage were we all at the same table before the crisis came about. And so that's something that we're trying to address in the mandate of the new Normalization Committee, to say that there should be open engagement and discussion with not only the government, but with all the different football stakeholders, so that we can all contribute to the success of Zimbabwean football. I think that's all the questions.
Thank you, Solomon. Just before I hand over to the SRC chairman who will handle the questions, I do want to quickly make reference and also thank the ZIFA Secretariat that have been working over the last year and a half. I've seen some of the threats. I've understood from them some of the difficulties that they've had to go through, and we appreciate the commitment and that you have had in working with the SRC and government, so thank you for that. Secondly, in terms of the two questions that I briefly want to have a comment on, was it worth it? Just to be able to sit here today and this last week with FIFA representatives, CAF representatives, COSAFA representatives, and to hear them say they want to sit around the table and work with us, 100% it was worth it. It was hard. It came at a certain cost that we all knew before we took the decision. But to get to this final stage where we can sit down and agree finally on a way forward that is going to benefit us as a country, 110% it was worth it. And when we see our Zimbabwean soccer men and women winning national, regional, and continental tournaments, we will all be saying 110% it was worth that small window of pain in order to get the success that we all know we rightfully should have. And lastly, I think, again, I've already addressed the stadiums. We've had good open conversations with FIFA. We will continue to have the conversations with FIFA, the guarantees of what is happening, which has not been made public, will go to FIFA through SRC, and we remain fully committed to doing that and to seeing and ensuring that we are playing our games at home. I'll pass the floor on to the SRC chairman, and I will allow also a request for you to please allow me to leave. I need to go and attend cabinet and give His Excellency and the rest of the leadership the good news. So after the SRC chairman has spoken, I will request for my leave. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm going to respond directly to the question that was raised by the lady, I forget your name? Rutendo. Right. Rutendo, if I got the gist of what you were saying, you were saying what has changed, right? And in saying that, you seemed to imply that the gift banda administration was not acknowledged by FIFA at all. Right. First and foremost, I would advise you to go back to that FIFA letter and read it very carefully, particularly where it states quite clearly, it acknowledges the outcome of the April Congress of last year. Read those sentences very carefully. But more to the point, you asked what has changed. And I'll answer that just by using one example. And that example relates to the female referees. What has changed? 3 years ago, those ladies complained of sexual harassment. No one did anything, or seemed to want to do anything. What has changed? Go and ask them today, and they will tell you what has changed. I'll answer you in that very simple way. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask, as we leave with the minister, we're coming back to answer more questions, but as we take our leave, we're just going to have a quick photo shoot. Members of the media, you are invited outside just for a quick photo shoot. I'll also invite the SRC board to come through, and people sitting here for just a quick 10-minute photo shoot as the honorable.
Thank you.